If you buy a steak at a store, you can no longer trust that it's actually steak because they can grind up meat from a lesser quality cut and use meat glue to basically glue it into a steak. And it's so hard to tell. Most people can't tell, and even people looking for it is really hard to tell.
Do you know if the beef on your plate is really nourishing your body? And do you know who's actually raising your beef? Well, today we are pulling back the curtain on what is really happening in the U.S. beef industry and why it is so important to know your rancher. And I am thrilled that today's episode gets to be with my local rancher that I have been working with for this last year. Let me tell you, the flavor is so much better than anything that I have ever tasted before. I really pray that today's episode is going to challenge your thinking about beef and that maybe you, like me, will find a local rancher and get the best beef possible for you and your family and save money and improve your health along the way. Thank you for joining me today, and please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this episode and what other episodes that you would like to see in this podcast. So Wade, thank you so much for being here today on the Wellness Wednesday podcast. I'm so excited to talk about regenerative beef. This is kind of new for me. I've learned so much as I have been buying my beef from you this year, and I'm just excited to let everyone else know how important it is to work with your local rancher and know more about regenerative beef. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, glad to be here. Excited.
Yes. So let's dive in and talk about what is regenerative beef, because it's a buzzword. People just might not know what it means.
So, regenerative ag is a term that's catching traction. It's been around, but it's gaining popularity, and it's focused around treating your farm as an ecosystem and working with nature. And the end goal is basically our resource is our soil. That's where all our minerals and nutrients come from and go back to. So building that up through different practices and removing practices that can harm that, or just for something that you do that's a negative, you do something to offset it as a positive. So your net gain is you're building your soil over the year and long term.
So help us figure out like all of these terms. So you go in the grocery store or wherever you're getting your beef, and there's labels like grass-fed, organic, and maybe there's not even listed anything that just says like 80-20 beef. What does that all mean?
So label claims are, in my opinion, purely just marketing tactics. The more label claims that are on the product is basically the more pushy a used car salesman is trying to sell you their product. And usually it's compensating for something, and there's no regulation on a lot of these label claims. It's like the term greenwashing, but nutrition or greenwashing in the food industry and farming. And a lot of them are very deceptive. Like grass-fed it gets me a little riled up because every beef, dairy, every cow is grass-fed. It's just a matter of if they're supplemented with any grains. And the funny thing is, all grasses produce grains. So you tell me where you draw the line on that label claim, and they can lock an animal in a confinement and feed them corn, purely grains, and get them to market faster and maybe feed them grass or turn them out on grass for a day and call it grass-fed.
Wow.
It's similar with them certified Angus beef. Angus is a breed in the beef industry, and it's obviously the largest breed. So their Breeders Association has the most clout and the most power. They came up with some great marketing around certified Angus beef back in the 80s. And now when I sell a mostly black-haired beef, steer, or cow at the market, that animal brings 10 cents, 5 to 10 cents more a pound at the sales barn or traditional market versus one that's more white or more red. and it doesn't have anything to do with genetics anymore. It's merely they're saying it's Angus influenced because the breed is predominantly black, but there's also red Angus. So that doesn't,
Mm.
most people don't know that. There's red and black Angus cattle. So that doesn't align with the label claims, and most people think it's better. And I guarantee you, if I blind taste tested 10 steaks in front of you, and one of them was Angus and one of them was from each of the other breeds, you probably wouldn't be able to pick it out. In fact, I would bet money on it. So even I couldn't pick it out, and I know what I'm looking for, and I couldn't tell the difference either unless I knew up front. But
Yeah.
there's a lot more label claims, there's a lot behind that, and it's deceptive in my opinion. That's why it's really important to know your local supplier and your
Yes.
local farmer and buy farm direct versus through a lot of these large packers that can't tell you where it came from, how it was fed, what drugs are in it, any of those things.
Yes. I totally agree. So, my little personal story, for so many years, I would used to buy my beef from a local butcher, and it was great. It was so much better than our local grocery store. It's like, okay, we'll make the extra drive. We're gonna, get this good beef. And then I started watching some videos on YouTube and find your local rancher. So I found you on the internet. I was like, oh yay, you're not too far away. And I've been blown away by the flavor difference from what I used to be getting from the ground beef to all of the steak cuts. It's significantly more flavor. And then also knowing that you don't add all the extra stuff that I might not have known that I was eating all those years before. I'm surprised by how many people that I know, like I say, oh, you've got to go buy your beef from Wade. It's the best. And they'll come back to me and say, oh, I get my beef cheaper at Aldi. I try my best, but I don't have what should I be saying? What would you say to those people that are like, I just prefer to shop at Aldi?
Actually, I've got an example of I tried to sell some local to a local restaurant here in town. He compared my bacon to the bacon from the Cisco truck, which is the distributors. Unify and Cisco are two of the bigger ones. Their quality is basically like me comparing a Ruth's Chris steak to an Applebee's steak to a McDonald's hamburger.
Wow.
It's not even comparable, and most people have no idea that there's a difference. Part of the difference is what's in it, the quality of the animal, the quality of its care. Like when you buy hamburger at Aldi, sure, you might be able to find it for $3.99 or probably $4.99 a pound now, with beef prices ridiculously high.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is they're allowed to put in a certain percentage of waste into that ground beef. So you're not buying 100% ground beef. You're also not buying that ground beef is a conglomerate of probably 100 to 200 plus different animals. One of them is probably sick. A lot of them may have been sick. So if one out of those 100 animals was injected with a drug before they were slaughtered, there is a certain amount of residual in that meat. It has to be below a certain threshold, and there's withholding times before you can send an animal to market, which aren't policed. It's kind of the honor system. They don't test the beef for residual before they process it. It's just advertised, and the farmers aren't supposed to send them to market without the withdrawal time being withheld. So if I inject a sick animal with a respiratory issue with penicillin, that has a short withdrawal time. So I can't take that animal to market for 48 to 72 hours.
Okay.
And that has to do with the half-life that will be in the system, but it will still be in the system below that half-life threshold. Just like when you get your water tested, if it's got contaminants, there's a threshold. It could be just below the threshold, but it's still in there. there's a likelihood that that's in there and you're consuming it. You're also consuming a very low quality animal because those animals that the packers buy are old cows that are past their production lifespan. It could be a 10 to 20-year-old cow that is sick, and that's why the farmer's shipping it, is because it can't produce a calf or it can't walk anymore because it got hurt and it has an issue. So those are the
Wow.
animals you're buying when you buy discount beef at Aldi or Sam's Club or wherever.
One thing I'll say on the nutritional side, I know for humans, when I talk to people about gut health, that the antibiotic will stay and affect your gut for 2 weeks to up to a year, depending on how healthy you were before you took like an antibiotic. So to just wait, and you're only saying like 48 hours, even though some aren't even waiting that long, like, yeah, those drugs are still lingering in that
True.
meat.
And that's just drugs. I mean, I can talk about chemicals that go onto the feed that the animal eats and a whole myriad of other things that most people don't consider that are big factors.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, which would be what is something in the beef industry here in the US that is going to shock the consumers?
Most people don't understand why beef prices are so high right now. The government's starting to meddle in that isn't helping the farmers and will not help the farmers. It's just going to make it worse for us. And all the people between us and you and the supply chain will end up getting every amount of incentive that the government tries to send our way. It may be well intentioned, but it will never reach us because the seed corn companies and the drug, pharmaceutical, veterinary companies, they will raise their prices knowing that this money is being sent to farmers and we don't have a choice but to pay it. So as far as the beef herd goes, it stems from the drought out west a couple years ago. It was like 3 or 4 years ago now. And a lot of most of the farmers are near retirement age. They're selling their farms and they're getting developed and they're getting bought out by corporations is one problem. And this drought, they didn't have any grass to run their cattle on. So they shipped them to market and flooded the market with beef. This included the cows that would have had calves next year and the year after that and filled the supply chain. And that's just a Band-Aid, and then we'll be stuck with that because that will just drive out more farmers and that'll snowball.
There's two topics I have in my head. Let me know if you want to go here. The first would be I've been hearing this year about meat glue that is being used in grocery stores. Do you want to shed any light on that deception going on there?
So if you buy a steak at a store, you can no longer trust that it's actually steak because they can grind up meat from a lesser quality cut and use meat glue to basically glue it into a steak. And it's so hard to tell. Most people can't tell, and even people looking for it is really hard to tell. The only way to tell is to shred it and pull it apart and see if there's strands in the steak or not. And this meat glue, I don't know exactly what it's made of, but it's just another synthetic thing that's in your food. And you're being marketed a lower quality cut as like a filet mignon or tenderloin versus a round steak from the rump, which is half to a third of the price.
Wow. So I've seen some videos of it and I've been shocked. I'm like, how is that a thing? Do you know anything about like the prevalence of the meat glue being used in the grocery industry?
I don't, because it's so hard to tell. So I can't really comment other than I know it's happening and most people don't even know about it.
Okay, so the other thing, which I've known this for years, I think there's some kind of like dye that's being used to make the beef look brighter red in the grocery store. Is that true sometimes?
Yes, they're allowed to put in dyes and fillers, and they use different chemicals through the process. They also inject a lot of saline solution. So if you look on the ingredient deck, they're supposed to disclose it. So if you buy a ham, it is most likely 10 to 20% injected with saltwater solution, along with other less natural chemicals that help with shelf life, coloring. It's all about the supply chain and shelf stability and life that it can last,
Mm.
so they can stretch that out and they can ship it further and continually process it. Chicken's another one that's constantly injected with salt water. It's rinsed in chlorine because they are allowed to
I,
sell chicken. It's expected that it has salmonella in it. That's why it gets a chlorine bath.
wow.
So you're getting that when you buy store chicken, and our USDA inspects chicken different than beef because it's allowed to have those diseases in the chicken versus beef or pork. So
Wow.
that's regulated differently.
I only learned about this chlorine bath in the last couple weeks. Like, oh, come on. And so that the whole chicken thing I'm really thrown off by, and I'm thrilled that I get my chicken from you too. Because our chickens do not need chlorine. That's just disgusting. I saw videos of like, I don't know, hundreds of the chickens just are all sitting in the same bath together, and oh, it's shocking how manipulated our protein industry is when we think like, oh, this is clean meat, and it's not.
Well, another thing in the beef industry is if you order a hamburger from a fast food restaurant, it's most likely not 100%
Yeah.
beef DNA. They're putting all kinds of alternate plant proteins and fillers and bone dust and the meat glue and ammonia they're treating it with.
And
And so,
crickets. Have you heard about the crickets?
yeah. So your McDonald's burger is not 100% beef. The brand that they buy it from is called All Beef brand. That's
So
why they're
that's how they're
allowed
getting
to
away from.
say the song to all beef patties, is because the company it comes from is titled All Beef.
I did
It
not
is
know
not
that.
100% beef.
Wow. Okay.
All of you college students, go sample one. See what comes up in your lab.
So I've traveled the world, fortunately, and just for funsies, we do stop at McDonald's in the other countries just because we want to see what the flavor of the hamburger is. It tastes different in France and also in Japan. It tastes different in Japan than it does here in the US. My guess is they're using higher quality. I could be wrong, but neither here nor there. It's different here.
There's a lot of chemicals that aren't allowed in other countries that
Oh,
are
okay.
okay here, and a lot of additives that aren't allowed in other countries that are allowed here.
Before we leave, like the shocking news that people might not know about, is there anything else that you want to address, in your opinion, that is happening here in the US that people don't know about with the cattle industry?
It's not specific to the cattle industry, it's specific to your food in general. I think it's common sense that the less processed and the less adulterated your food is from the ground to your plate, the better. But a lot of people don't understand how fast the nutritional value drops just on your vegetables. If you pick a carrot from your garden and you eat it 5 minutes later raw, that's about as good as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Now, if you freeze it, thaw it, cook it, transport it around the world, and eat it a month later, it has lost a large percentage of its nutritional value. So the same
Yes.
goes with your beef, and that same goes with it snowballs, because what you feed that beef also is affected by what it has in its muscling that we're eating. All these GMO corns and soybeans and grains that are fed, those are adulterated. The chemicals that go onto those feed products, those also have residuals along with the drugs like we already talked about. So all of those things factor into it. The time from it getting processed to how fast it's frozen makes a huge difference. How it's aged, like I take my beef to a local butcher shop and they dry age the meat, which hangs in a freezer for a week to dry age. The commercial industry wet ages their meat. So it's immediately put into a bag with a liquid solution that ages it, and it doesn't lose any water weight. It actually picks up water weight.
Okay. So
So
they get more
you're
money.
buying more water Even if
Yeah.
we took the same half a cow from my farm and you bought it in the store versus from me, just on how it was processed would change the how much you're buying of actual beef, because you'd be buying a lot more water weight just on the aging process with the same animal. There's
Yeah.
so many different things that go into it that most people don't understand or know about, that I think we're, with the prevalence of the internet and YouTube and stuff, people are slowly learning and getting wiser. But it's our job as farmers to educate people and give them truthful information so that they
Right.
can make better choices with what they put into their bodies. You can see the results of doing this based on our health as a country.
Mm,
Our life expectancy has not gone up in the
right.
last how many years, even though we
Yeah.
have access to all the benefits and advantages of any developed nation in the world. So,
Right.
how does that happen?
Thank you. This is like all new information to me, but it makes sense because, like, you and I have talked about fresh milling our flour and how that nutrition is so much better than the flour that's been sitting on the shelf in the grocery store. So, and like you're talking about vegetables, our beef, and our other protein items, like, oh, well, it makes sense. Get it fresh, get it local, lock in those nutrients, and not have those
Mhm.
chemicals in it. Wow. The whole package.
Right. Like your flour is fresh milled. There's no bleaching or removing the wheat
Right.
germ. So
Right.
it's all natural. And they're not adding fake vitamins that our bodies can't process to just make nutrition claims on the facts panel.
I'm pivoting quite a bit here. So I know that health is really important to you, and you talk a lot to a lot of people who are doing carnivore diets and weightlifters and like that, the health and wellness industry on that angle. Let's talk a little bit about how beef and chicken that you raise, how that will help people that are wanting to, lose weight, improve their muscle mass and all that. I'll leave it open for you to answer that.
Well, it all comes down to me. We should base it off of nutrient density. And if you want to educate yourself on that, start researching things like Brix level, which is more or less the sugar that a plant or food contains. It's what kind of nutrition we can get out of it. Some of the things that we practice in regenerative ag focus on elevating our Brix level. And how we do that is by elevating our soils so that we grow different crops. We have different minerals in our soils. We build up the organic matter. We're scrubbing carbon from the environment. We're not putting as many, if any, chemicals on it. We're doing different practices so that we keep a living root in the ground. Our soil is going to be better. So our feed is going to be better for our beef. So our beef automatically are getting fed better. So it's, if you look at two different human beings, one who's healthy and fit versus one who's not, they're
Yeah.
eating different quality foods. So now apply that
Yeah.
to your food, what your food is eating. So if you're eating beef, what was that animal fed? Did it look like an NFL linebacker, or did it
Yeah.
look like your average obese person in the United States? Then
That's
when you
good.
put that into your body, it's what's fueling you. So my steak is going to have way more nutrition, amino acids, minerals, vitamins, and a bigger variety of them than your run of the mill supermarket steak. On top of all the quality things we already talked about from the supply chain, just the fundamental health of my animals is higher because of what we feed them and how they're cared for. Like, animals are made to exercise. You want
Mm,
healthy food, you have to let them roam and walk around. You can't confine them. Like, if I locked you in a cage, you would get fat fairly
right.
quickly if I kept feeding you. And then based off of what I fed you, that would
Mm,
change your body also. So
yeah.
these animals that can't move and get oxygen to their muscles, and they can't be healthy and resilient from respiratory and other types of illnesses, that's why they're putting these antibiotics in the feed, because they're
Okay.
stocked so tight. Like, think of the concentration camps. They had people living on top of each other, and illness was rampant just because of the air quality and how little exercise they could get.
Oh,
So
that makes
that's more or less your stockyards and what you're eating.
well, and as you're talking about this, thinking about humans, like if we're not exercising, our heart isn't functioning well. And you're talking about, getting that oxygen to all parts of the body. And it's just a downward spiral. Poor cows.
So an easy way to visualize this is if you've ever bought a farm fresh egg versus a egg from your local supermarket,
Yeah.
and you crack them and look at the color of the yolk. The other way you can look at it is look at the fat on your meat. If you buy
Mm-hmm.
tallow, does it have a yellow tint or is it pure like bleach white? You
Ooh.
want that yellowish color. That means there's minerals and nutrients in there versus
Good.
it's been adulterated or cleaned or what it ate was. Also, if you buy beef from the store, it shouldn't be bright red. It should be kind of purplish.
Okay. That's not
So
what we've
that's
been
another thing
taught.
is we don't add any dyes. Like real local beef has more of a purple tint to it if you buy ground hamburger and open it up. And then in the middle it's bright red. It's because of oxygen. That's what you're putting in your body. So if you want to be an elite performer, you need elite fuel to perform better and to grow bigger, better, stronger, faster muscles.
Yes. You're blowing my mind, Wade. Like, here I thought I knew so much more than I do. And well, thank you. So much to learn. Okay, so let's get into some fun things. Talking about your favorite cuts of meat. I get a subscription box every month from Wade, so I get to have some fun new meats. And I didn't even know about probably half of the cuts that I've been getting because I don't think they sell them in the grocery store, or at least where I've gotten them. So tell me what your favorite cut of beef is that people might not know about, and how do you cook it?
My favorite has always been a filet done medium rare, just because I like the tenderness. Some people like ribeyes. There's a little bit of gristle, more marbling, but it doesn't have that tenderness. Now, a close second that most people might not have heard of is flat iron steak, which
My
is
favorite.
very similar. It has more flavor. It's not quite as tender as a filet, but it's very close. And you more or less char the outside, salt and pepper it, and it's phenomenal. The other thing is I like to drizzle mine with cowboy butter, so that adds a lot of flavor too. But I'm not afraid of fat. I know that I need fat as fuel to be healthy. And that's something that a lot of people have to unlearn is that
Right.
red meat is actually one of the best foods for us because of all the nutrients and vitamins and amino acids it has. Red meat and eggs are about as good as you can do for a protein source. And if you want to do better, make sure they were fed better.
That's great. I have to say, filet mignon has been my favorite cut of meat probably since I was in high school. But until you gave me a flat iron, I'm like, where has this been all my life? I've had it in restaurants before, but I've never been able to prepare it at home. And it's easy. I can cook it inside on my flat iron skillet. I've never actually taken it out to my grill. I've just done it on my skillet, but it's so good. And then make a little chimichurri sauce on top.
Yep.
It's like gourmet restaurant food right there.
Yeah, so you're not going to get those cuts in the supermarket. Some other ones that people might not be aware of are your skirt steak, your flank steaks, and like a bavette, or if you've been to a Brazilian steakhouse, when they come out with the meat swords and you got your little chip to flip over, green or red. My favorite is the top sirloin or picanha. So you can get that from
Mm-hmm.
your local farmer, the butcher. Like these are all cuts that, unless you ask for, you're not going to find typically in the supermarket, but they're used different ways. A lot of them are ground up in mass market production. You miss out when you are limited to 5 different cuts at the grocery store
Yeah, exactly. There's so
because
much more
there's
variety in life.
so many different cuts and so many different preparation options when you get the whole cuts and you get them cut properly.
And I love that I get beef bones to make my beef broth, getting that good collagen, high protein broth that I get to add to soups and all the things. Win-win when you're getting from your local farmer.
Have you done marrow yet?
I tried. I need to actually watch a YouTube video on how to do it better. I don't think I did it as long as I was supposed to. Do you want to share with everybody how people can do their marrow?
I like to salt mine
Okay.
overnight for 24 hours in the refrigerator,
Yes.
and then you broil it in the oven till it starts to caramelize and the top crisps, and then you just scoop it out and spread it on toast or something with some caramelized onions. It's a treat and it's super nutritious.
It is definitely a treat, and the high-end restaurants do that.
Yep.
I think I have to be more patient. Start it earlier. So, Wade, I would love for people to know how to connect with you, especially those that are here in south of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And if you also let them know if they are outside of Minnesota, I don't know. Do you want them to connect with you, or who can they connect with?
For us, for our farm, we're in Cannon Falls, south of the Twin Cities, right off 52 is our main pasture. And then where we live is about 3 miles down the road where we feed all our animals in the winter. And you can stop by our farm anytime to see them. And we always have individual cuts and stuff on hand that we would take to like farmers markets. So you can do that and text and call by appointment. Otherwise, our website, banffmeats.com. And then we have our Instagram account, and we're looking to launch a YouTube account also this year with more educational stuff like this to help people understand what they're getting and what they're actually eating,
Yes.
and to bring their closer to their food. But you can buy any of our products, either bulk or our subscription, on our website. And if you're in a 30 to 40 mile radius of Cannon Falls, we can deliver them directly to your door. Otherwise, if you're further away, we'll ship them. If you're out of state, we will ship steaks and stuff, but it kind of gets cost prohibitive to ship lower cost cuts just because the shipping. The value is mostly in the high end cuts. I can still sell you them at a good value, and you'll be getting better quality than you can find most places. And if you live outside of our area, just search for local farmers and talk to them and buy directly, either in bulk or however they have it available. But it's not that hard to find. Most people, I don't know if they're scared to because they don't know a farmer, but once you do, then that
Yeah.
that
Can never go back.
issue is removed. Yeah. We don't have we have a high customer retention. So once you
Yeah.
start, the only reason people stop is if they move out of the area typically.
Right. And I have to say, my son is 2 states away, and he buys his beef from you, trailers it on up to his home because he can't find anything as good as your beef. It's so amazing. Thank you, Wade, so much for all your education. It's, again, been mind-blowing for me. I hope that everyone listening today has learned so much more about their beef and chicken and even pork. Reach out to your local farmer, and thanks again, Wade.
Yep. Thanks for having me.